The moment their eyes met across the crowded cafe, Mark knew his life would never be the same. But the journey to that moment, filled with heartbreak, misunderstandings, and a 5-year-old daughter who would play unexpected matchmaker, was anything but simple. If you enjoy stories about second chances and fate's perfect timing, hit that like button and subscribe for more heartwarming real-life stories that remind us love finds us when we least expect it. *. Mark Jenkins checked his watch for the 7th time in 30 minutes. 7:45 p.m. His blind date was officially 45 minutes late. The sympathetic glances from the waitstaff had evolved into pitying looks, and the candle on his table had burned down significantly. He'd nursed the same glass of water so long that the ice had completely melted, leaving only tepid liquid that matched his dampened spirits. "Can I get you anything else, sir?" the server asked, her voice gentle with compassion. Mark forced a smile. "Just the check, please. I think I've been stood up." As the server walked away, Mark ran a hand through his dark hair, slightly streaked with premature gray at the temples, earned from 5 years of single parenthood. At 34, dating wasn't supposed to be this complicated. But with a 5-year-old daughter and a demanding job as an architectural engineer, finding time for romance had fallen to the bottom of his priority list. It was his sister Jen who had insisted on setting up this blind date. "She's perfect for you," Jen had promised. "She's smart, kind, great with kids, and absolutely beautiful." Mark had reluctantly agreed, arranging for his parents to watch his daughter Lily for the evening. Now, as he prepared to leave the upscale Italian restaurant, he mentally rehearsed the conversation he'd have with Jen tomorrow. No more blind dates. No more putting himself out there only to be disappointed. Lily was enough. His job was enough. This whole dating experiment had been a mistake. Just as he signed the receipt for his untouched glass of wine, the restaurant door flew open. A woman rushed in, slightly breathless, her chestnut hair windblown and her cheeks flushed. She spoke urgently to the hostess, who pointed directly at Mark. The woman turned, and Mark felt his breath catch. She was stunning, warm brown eyes, a constellation of freckles across her nose, and a smile that transformed her entire face as she spotted him and hurried over. "Are you Mark?" she asked, her voice melodic but tinged with anxiety. "I'm Emma. Emma Lawson. I am so sorry I'm late." Mark blinked in confusion. "But my date's name was supposed to be Sarah." Emma's face fell. "Oh no. Did Jen not tell you? Sarah had a family emergency and couldn't make it. I'm her friend. Jen called me this afternoon to see if I could step in. I said yes, but then there was an emergency at the pediatric ward where I work, and I couldn't get away, and my phone died, and..." She stopped, taking a deep breath. "I completely understand if you want to call it a night." Mark should have been annoyed. He should have politely declined and headed home. But something about Emma's genuine distress and the way she nervously tucked her hair behind her ear made him pause. "Actually," he said, surprising himself, "I haven't eaten yet. Would you like to join me? They might still have our reservation." The relief that washed over Emma's face was palpable. "I'd like that very much. And I promise to make up for being so late." As the hostess led them to a new table, Mark couldn't help but notice how Emma apologized to the staff, her kindness evident in every interaction. Perhaps this night wasn't a complete loss after all. "So you're a pediatric nurse?" Mark asked as they settled into their meals 20 minutes later. Emma nodded, twirling pasta around her fork. "Going on 7 years now. I work in the oncology department at Children's Memorial." "That must be incredibly difficult," Mark said, genuinely impressed. "It can be," Emma admitted. "But it's also the most rewarding job I could imagine. Those kids, they're fighting battles most adults couldn't handle, and they do it with such courage." Her eyes lit up as she spoke, and Mark found himself captivated by her passion. "My daughter Lily would probably say you have a superhero job," Mark said with a smile. Emma's expression softened. You have a daughter? Jen mentioned you were a single dad, but she didn't share many details. Lily's 5. She's the center of my universe, Mark said, pulling out his phone to show Emma a photo of a gap-toothed little girl with his same dark hair and bright blue eyes. Her mother left when Lily was just 6 months old. Decided parenthood wasn't for her. He hadn't meant to share something so personal so quickly, but something about Emma made him feel at ease. I'm sorry, Emma said, her eyes full of genuine empathy rather than pity. That must have been incredibly difficult for you both. It was, at first, Mark admitted. But we've built a good life together. My parents help out, and we have our routine. Lily's thriving, and that's what matters most. She's beautiful, Emma said, studying the photo. She has your smile. Mark felt a warmth spread through his chest at the observation. Most people commented on Lily's eyes or hair, but Emma had noticed something deeper, a connection between father and daughter that went beyond physical traits. What about you? Mark asked. Any kids? A shadow crossed Emma's face briefly. No. I always wanted them, but life had other plans. She took a sip of her wine before continuing. I was engaged 3 years ago. We had everything planned, the wedding, the house, even names picked out for our future children. Then 2 months before the wedding, I discovered he'd been cheating with his coworker. I'm sorry, Mark said, meaning it. Emma shrugged, but he could see the hurt still lingered. It was for the best, finding out before we got married. But it made me cautious about dating again. I understand that completely, Mark said. This is actually my first date in over a year. Well, I'm honored, Emma said with a small smile. Even if I nearly stood you up. Nearly being the operative word, Mark replied, returning her smile. As dinner progressed, Mark found himself increasingly drawn to Emma. She listened intently when he talked about his work designing sustainable buildings. She laughed genuinely at his jokes, even the corny ones. And when she spoke about her patients, the compassion in her voice moved him deeply. By the time they shared a tiramisu for dessert, Mark realized he hadn't enjoyed himself this much in years. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and he found himself reluctant for the evening to end. Would you like to take a walk? He suggested as they stepped outside the restaurant. There's a nice park just down the block with a fountain that's lit up at night. Emma checked her watch. I'd love to, but it's getting late, and I have an early shift tomorrow. Mark nodded, trying to hide his disappointment. Of course. Can I call you a cab? Actually, I drove. My car's just around the corner, Emma said. But I'd like to see you again, if you're interested. The directness of her statement caught Mark off guard, but he appreciated her honesty. I'd like that very much, he said, pulling out his phone to exchange numbers. As they programmed each other's contact information, their fingers brushed, sending an unexpected jolt of electricity through Mark. Emma must have felt it too, because she looked up suddenly, her eyes meeting his with an intensity that made his heart race. I'm really glad Sarah had a family emergency, Mark said, then immediately winced. That came out wrong. I mean. Emma laughed, the sound musical in the quiet night. I know what you meant. And for what it's worth, I'm glad too. They stood there for a moment, neither quite ready to say goodbye. Finally, Emma leaned forward and placed a gentle kiss on Mark's cheek. Good night, Mark Jenkins, she whispered. Thank you for waiting for me. As he watched her walk away, Mark touched the spot where her lips had been, a smile spreading across his face. For the first time in years, he felt a flicker of something he'd almost forgotten, hope. The next morning, Mark hummed as he made pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, Lily's favorite. Daddy, you're singing, Lily observed from her perch at the kitchen counter, where she was carefully arranging blueberries into smiley faces. Am I? Mark asked, flipping a triceratops-shaped pancake with a flourish. Uh-huh. And you're smiling a lot, Lily said, her keen observation skills missing nothing. Did something good happen? Mark considered how to explain his date to his daughter. I met a new friend last night. Her name is Emma. Is she pretty? Lily asked immediately. Mark chuckled. Yes, she's very pretty. But she's also very kind and smart. She helps sick children get better. Lily's eyes widened. Like a doctor? Like a nurse, Mark corrected. A very special kind of nurse who works with kids who have a serious illness. Wow, Lily breathed, clearly impressed. Can I meet her? Maybe someday, Mark said carefully. We just met, pumpkin. But you like her, Lily stated matter-of-factly. Mark smiled at his perceptive daughter. Yes, I do like her. Good, Lily declared, popping a blueberry into her mouth. Because you need more friends, Daddy. You work too much. Out of the mouths of babes, Mark thought as he served up the dinosaur pancakes. His phone chimed with a text message, and his heart skipped when he saw Emma's name on the screen. Good morning. Just wanted to say I had a wonderful time last night. My shift ends at 6 today if you're free for coffee. Mark typed back immediately, coffee sounds perfect. There's a place called Bean there near the hospital. 6:30. Her response came quickly, it's a date. Smiling face with smiling eyes. Mark couldn't stop smiling as he joined Lily at the table for breakfast. Maybe, just maybe, his sister's matchmaking wasn't such a bad idea after all. The coffee shop was bustling when Mark arrived that evening. He dropped Lily off at his parents' house, explaining he had a work meeting, not quite ready to share the potential of a new relationship with them yet. He spotted Emma immediately. She sat in a corner booth, still wearing scrubs under her coat, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Even after what must have been an exhausting shift, she glowed with a quiet energy that drew his eye. Hi, he said, sliding into the seat across from her. Long day? Emma's smile was tired but genuine. The longest. But seeing you just made it better. The simple honesty of her statement warmed him. I ordered you a latte, she added, pushing a steaming mug toward him. I hope that's okay. Jen mentioned you're a coffee purist. Perfect, Mark said, touched by the thoughtfulness. How was your shift? Challenging, Emma admitted. One of my long-term patients isn't responding to treatment as well as we'd hoped. She sighed, running a finger around the rim of her mug. Sorry, that's probably not what you want to hear about. Actually, I do, Mark said sincerely. I want to hear about your day, the good and the bad. Emma looked at him with surprise, as if she wasn't used to someone being interested in the difficult parts of her job. His name is Theo. He's 7, and he's been fighting leukemia for almost 2 years. We thought he was in remission, but his latest tests show the cancer might be returning. I'm so sorry, Mark said, resisting the urge to reach across the table and take her hand. The thing about Theo is, he never loses hope, Emma continued, her voice strengthening. Today, even after getting this news, he was telling me about how he's going to be an astronaut when he grows up. He made me promise to come visit him on the moon. Mark smiled at the image. Sounds like an amazing kid. They all are, Emma said. That's what keeps me going on the hard days. She took a sip of her coffee. Enough about my day. How was yours? How's Lily? She's good. She asked about you this morning, Mark admitted. Emma's eyebrows rose. She did? I mentioned I'd met a new friend named Emma who helps sick children, Mark explained. She was very impressed and immediately asked if she could meet you. I'd like that, Emma said softly. Whenever you think it's appropriate, of course. Mark appreciated her understanding of the delicate balance of dating as a single parent. Maybe we should get to know each other a bit better first, he suggested. I'd like that too, Emma agreed. So, tell me something about yourself that isn't on your dating resume. Mark laughed. Dating resume? Is that a thing? You know what I mean, Emma said, her eyes twinkling. Something Jen wouldn't have told me. Something real. Mark thought for a moment. I'm terrified of failing Lily, he admitted, the words coming out before he could filter them. Every day, I worry that I'm not enough, that she needs a mother, a more balanced life, something I can't give her on my own. Emma's expression softened. From what little I know of you, Mark Jenkins, I'd say Lily is incredibly lucky to have you as her father. Thank you, Mark said, touched by her words. Your turn. Tell me something real. Emma took a deep breath. I can't have children, she said quietly. That's part of why my engagement ended. We found out during some routine tests before we started trying. My ex couldn't handle it, said he needed biological children to feel fulfilled. She looked down at her coffee. I've come to terms with it, mostly. There are other ways to build a family. But it's still a raw spot. Mark reached across the table then, taking her hand in his. I'm sorry he couldn't see past his own expectations to what was right in front of him, someone who would be an amazing mother, biological or otherwise. Emma's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Thank you for saying that. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, hands still connected across the table. Mark marveled at how quickly they'd moved past surface-level conversation to something deeper, more meaningful. So, Emma said finally, lightening the mood. What's your favorite dinosaur? I need to know for professional reasons. Mark laughed, grateful for the shift. Triceratops. Lily's is the velociraptor, which I find mildly concerning. Smart girl, Emma said with a grin. Velociraptors were intelligent pack hunters. She's obviously strategic. Great, now I have to worry about her planning coordinated attacks with her preschool friends, Mark groaned in mock horror. Their conversation flowed easily from there, jumping from dinosaurs to favorite books to dream vacations. Before Mark knew it, 2 hours had passed, and the coffee shop was preparing to close. I should get going, Emma said reluctantly. Early shift again tomorrow. Can I walk you to your car? Mark offered. Outside, the evening had turned chilly, and Emma shivered slightly. Without thinking, Mark slipped off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. Such a gentleman, Emma teased, but she pulled the jacket closer around her. When they reached her car, Mark found himself reluctant to say goodbye. I'd like to see you again, he said. Maybe dinner this weekend? You could meet Lily, if you want. Nothing formal, just pizza and a movie at our place. Emma's face lit up. I'd love that. This time, when they said goodbye, Mark was the one who leaned in. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, but filled with promise. When they pulled apart, Emma's smile was radiant. Good night, Mark, she whispered. Good night, Emma, he replied, watching as she drove away, his heart lighter than it had been in years. Saturday arrived with a flurry of activity in the Jenkins household. Lily had been ecstatic about meeting Daddy's nurse friend, and had insisted on helping prepare for the evening. This help primarily consisted of rearranging her stuffed animals in the living room and drawing welcome pictures for Emma. Do you think she'll like my drawings, Daddy? Lily asked, holding up a colorful creation that appeared to be a nurse surrounded by smiling children. She'll love them, Mark assured her, touched by his daughter's enthusiasm. He'd been careful to explain to Lily that Emma was just a friend, not wanting to set expectations too high, but Lily seemed determined to make her own assessment. At precisely 6 p.m., the doorbell rang. Mark's heart raced as he went to answer it, suddenly nervous about these two important parts of his life meeting. He opened the door to find Emma standing there, looking beautiful in jeans and a soft blue sweater, holding a small gift bag. Hi, she said, her smile slightly nervous. I brought something for Lily. I hope that's okay. Of course, Mark said, stepping aside to let her in. She's been counting down the hours until you arrived. As if on cue, Lily came racing into the entryway, skidding to a stop in her sock feet. She stared up at Emma with wide, curious eyes. You must be Lily, Emma said, kneeling down to the child's level. I'm Emma. Your dad has told me so much about you. Lily studied Emma's face intently before declaring, You're prettier than Daddy said. Mark felt his face flush as Emma glanced up at him with an amused smile. Is that so? Lily continued, oblivious to her father's embarrassment. He said you were pretty, but you're really, really pretty. And you help sick kids? I do, Emma confirmed. I'm a nurse at the children's hospital. Lily's eyes widened with admiration. That's so cool. I want to be a doctor when I grow up. Or a velociraptor trainer. Emma laughed, the sound filling the hallway with warmth. Both excellent career choices. She held out the gift bag. I brought you something. Lily accepted the bag with reverence, carefully removing the tissue paper to reveal a child-sized stethoscope and a plush dinosaur wearing a hospital gown. This is Rex, Emma explained. He's a special dinosaur who helps kids understand what happens at the hospital. And that's a real stethoscope, just smaller. Lily's face lit up with delight. Thank you, she exclaimed, immediately putting the stethoscope around her neck and clutching Rex to her chest. Daddy, can I show Emma my room? I want her to meet my other dinosaurs. Mark glanced at Emma, who nodded enthusiastically. I'd love to meet them. As Lily led Emma upstairs, chattering excitedly about her collection, Mark felt a surge of emotion watching them together. Emma listened to his daughter with genuine interest, asking questions and responding with the perfect balance of enthusiasm and respect. The evening progressed with an ease that surprised Mark. They made pizza together, with Lily insisting on creating the toppings in the shape of a dinosaur. They watched a movie, during which Lily gradually migrated from her own spot to sit between them, eventually leaning against Emma's side as her eyelids grew heavy. When it was time for bed, Lily asked if Emma could help with her bedtime story. Mark watched from the doorway as Emma read Where the Wild Things Are with different voices for each character, making Lily giggle despite her tiredness. Good night, sweet girl, Emma said softly as she tucked the covers around Lily. Will you come back? Lily asked sleepily. Emma glanced at Mark before answering. If your dad says it's okay, I'd love to. Daddy says yes, Lily mumbled, already drifting off. I asked him already. Mark felt his heart swell as Emma joined him in the hallway, gently closing Lily's door. She's amazing, Mark, Emma whispered. You've done an incredible job with her. Thank you, he said, leading her back downstairs. She clearly adores you already. The feeling is mutual, Emma admitted as they settled on the couch with glasses of wine. She's smart, funny, and has excellent taste in dinosaurs. Mark laughed, then grew serious. I want to be honest with you, Emma. Dating as a single parent is complicated. Lily has to be my priority, always. I wouldn't expect anything less, Emma said. And I appreciate your honesty. For what it's worth, I understand the package deal. I'm not just interested in you, Mark. I'm interested in the life you've built, including Lily. Mark felt something shift inside him, a wall he'd built around his heart slowly beginning to crumble. I'm falling for you, he admitted quietly. And that terrifies me. Emma reached for his hand, intertwining their fingers. I'm falling for you too, she whispered. And yes, it's scary. But some things are worth the risk, don't you think? Instead of answering with words, Mark leaned forward and kissed her, pouring all his hopes and fears into the connection between them. When they finally pulled apart, Emma's eyes were shining. I should go, she said reluctantly. But I don't want to. I know, Mark replied. But we have time. No need to rush. As he walked her to the door, Emma turned to him with a smile. "Thank you for tonight. For sharing Lily with me. For trusting me enough to let me into your world." "Thank you for wanting to be part of it," Mark replied. After she left, Mark stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching her taillights disappear down the street. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to imagine a future that included someone beside himself and Lily, a future with Emma in it. The weeks that followed were filled with moments that gradually wove Emma into the fabric of their lives. Sunday morning pancakes became a tradition, with Emma joining them after her night shifts. Weekday evenings often found her helping Lily with her kindergarten homework while Mark prepared dinner. They visited the zoo, the aquarium, the children's museum, creating memories together that Mark treasured. It wasn't always perfect. There were moments of adjustment, of learning each other's boundaries and habits. Emma's schedule at the hospital was demanding and unpredictable. Mark sometimes struggled to balance work deadlines with family time. But through it all, they communicated, compromised, and grew closer. 3 months after their first date, Mark realized with startling clarity that he was in love with Emma. The revelation came not during a romantic moment, but while watching her and Lily sprawled on the living room floor, building an elaborate fort out of blankets and chairs, both of them laughing until tears streamed down their faces. This is what family feels like, he thought, his heart full to bursting. That night, after Lily was asleep, Mark took Emma's hand as they sat on the porch swing, watching fireflies dance in the summer twilight. "I love you," he said simply, the words feeling both momentous and natural on his lips. Emma's smile was radiant as she turned to him. "I love you too," she replied. "Both of you." 2 weeks later, Emma received devastating news. Theo, her 7-year-old patient with leukemia, had taken a turn for the worse. His parents had decided to stop treatment and focus on making his remaining time comfortable and joyful. Mark held Emma as she cried, her body shaking with grief for the little boy she'd grown to love. "He wants to see the stars," she said through her tears. "Real stars, not just pictures. His parents are trying to arrange a trip somewhere, but he's so weak now, and they don't have much money." An idea formed in Mark's mind. "My firm has a client with a property in the mountains, about 2 hours from here. It's remote, with no light pollution, perfect for stargazing. And there's a medical facility nearby." Emma looked up, hope dawning in her tear-stained face. "Do you think?" "Let me make some calls," Mark promised. 3 days later, they drove up winding mountain roads, Theo and his parents following in an ambulance arranged by the hospital. The property was a modern cabin with floor-to-ceiling windows and a massive deck overlooking a valley. Mark had worked with the owner to make it accessible for Theo's needs, and Emma had coordinated with the medical team to ensure his comfort. That night, they bundled Theo in blankets and carried him to a special reclining chair on the deck. As darkness fell, the sky transformed into a tapestry of stars more brilliant than any of them had ever seen. "Wow," Theo whispered, his thin face illuminated by starlight. "It's even better than the pictures." Emma sat beside him, pointing out constellations and planets, her medical knowledge temporarily set aside in favor of the astronomy books she'd studied in preparation for this moment. "Which one is Mars?" Theo asked, his voice weak but excited. "Right there," Emma said, guiding his gaze. "The reddish one. That's where I'm going next," Theo declared with the certainty only a child could possess. "After the moon." Emma's voice caught as she replied, "I'll be watching for your spaceship." Later, after Theo had fallen asleep and been carried inside, Mark found Emma standing alone on the deck, tears streaming silently down her face as she gazed at the stars. "You gave him something priceless tonight," Mark said softly, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "We did," Emma corrected, leaning back against his chest. "I couldn't have done this without you." "That's what partners do," Mark said. "They help carry each other's burdens and multiply each other's joys." Emma turned in his arms, her face serious in the moonlight. Is that what we are? Partners? I hope so, Mark said. Because I can't imagine my life without you in it anymore. Theo passed away peacefully 2 weeks later, surrounded by his family, with Emma holding his hand. At the memorial service, his parents embraced Emma and Mark, thanking them for the gift of that starlit night, a memory they would cherish forever. As they drove home from the service, Lily asleep in the back seat, Emma stared out the window, lost in thought. "Move in with us," Mark said suddenly, the words emerging before he'd fully formed the thought. Emma turned to him, surprised. "What?" "Move in with us," he repeated, more certain now. "Life is too short and too precious to waste time being apart when we could be together." "Are you sure?" Emma asked. "What about Lily?" "She adores you," Mark said. "And I love you. We both do. Our home feels empty when you're not in it." Emma was quiet for a long moment, and Mark worried he'd pushed too far, too fast. Then she reached for his hand. "Yes," she said simply. "I'd love to come home to you both every day." 6 months later, on a crisp autumn evening, Mark stood in the same Italian restaurant where he'd nearly been stood up a year before. This time, however, he wasn't anxiously checking his watch. This time, he knew exactly who would be walking through the door. He'd arranged everything carefully, the same table, the same server, now in on the surprise, even the same wine he'd ordered but never drunk that first night. When Emma arrived, beautiful in a deep green dress, her face lit up with recognition. "Is this where it all began?" Mark confirmed, taking her hand as they sat down. "Where I almost gave up before you rushed in and changed everything." "Best late arrival of my life," Emma said with a smile. They enjoyed their meal, reminiscing about the past year, the challenges they'd overcome, the joy they'd found together, the life they'd built. Mark had never felt more certain about anything than he did about the small velvet box burning a hole in his pocket. After dessert, he took a deep breath. "Emma, this past year has taught me something I never expected to learn again after Lily's mother left, that love doesn't have to hurt. That family can be chosen, built, and nurtured through intention and care." Emma's eyes widened as Mark slid from his chair to one knee beside the table. "You came into our lives like a whirlwind, apologizing for being late," he continued, his voice thick with emotion. "But the truth is, you weren't late at all. You arrived exactly when we needed you most." He pulled out the ring box and opened it to reveal a simple but elegant diamond. "Emma Lawson, will you marry me and make our family complete?" Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks as she nodded, too overcome to speak at first. "Yes," she finally managed. "1,000 times yes." As Mark slipped the ring onto her finger, the restaurant erupted in applause. But he barely noticed, lost in Emma's eyes and the promise of their future together. "There's one more surprise," he said as they left the restaurant. Someone else wanted to be part of this moment. Outside, his parents' car was parked at the curb. The back door opened, and Lily bounded out, dressed in her favorite party dress, clutching a small bouquet of flowers. "Did you say yes?" she demanded, rushing up to Emma. "Are you going to be my mom for real now?" Emma knelt down, gathering Lily into a tight hug. "If that's what you want, sweetheart, nothing would make me happier. I've been wanting it forever," Lily declared dramatically. "Since the day you read me wild things and did all the monster voices." Mark watched the two most important people in his world embrace, his heart so full it felt like it might burst. From almost being stood up to finding his soulmate, life had a way of surprising you when you least expected it. Later that night, as they tucked Lily into bed together, she asked sleepily, "Can I be the flower girl at your wedding?" "Of course," Emma promised. "We wouldn't have it any other way." "And can we get a puppy after you get married?" Lily added, ever the negotiator. Mark and Emma exchanged amused glances over her head. "We'll discuss that later," Mark said diplomatically. As they closed Lily's door and headed downstairs, Emma's ring catching the light as she took his hand, Mark reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A blind date gone wrong that turned out to be exactly right. A late arrival that was perfectly timed. A family formed not by blood but by choice and love. What are you thinking about? Emma asked as they settled on the couch, her head resting on his shoulder. How grateful I am that I waited those 45 minutes, Mark replied, kissing the top of her head. Best decision I ever made. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it, Emma promised. And as they sat together planning their future, Mark knew with absolute certainty that some love stories were worth waiting for, even when you thought the date was over. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more real-life tales of love, hope, and second chances. Remember that sometimes the most beautiful beginnings come from what seems like endings, and the right person arrives exactly when they're meant to, even if they're running a little late.